Good afternoon, everybody. This is another HM1 in 2021. This is Ryan. Today we're going over the correspondence manual. SECNAV instruction, Mike TAC 5216.5. So on the HM1 exam, I didn't see, or let me back up for a sec. I didn't see the correspondence manual on the E4, E5 exam bibs. I only saw it on the E6 one. So if you're here for the lower ones, this is really only going to help for HM1s. But the channel name is HM1 in 2021, so kind of self-explanatory. This is geared for you guys and myself. So there are 3 chapters in this book, or in this bib for this coming cycle, March of 2021. It is 7, 8, and 9. Today, I'm just going to go over chapter 7 today, and then I'll do the other ones in separate videos. Reason being, I know in those last several years I've been taking this exam, the correspondence manual is almost always on there, but which chapters I think changes pretty often. So I'm going to make separate videos just so we can flip them around, and I can retire some of them if they're not on the September exam if I'm still taking it. So without further ado, chapter 7, correspondence format. I'm not going to lie, this one's pretty boring. It has a lot of raw memorization. What you really need to focus on is like how many spaces after a lot of stuff. I know that is really annoying, but there are a couple tricks to kind of recognize how many spaces are in front of some stuff. And it also talks about like what is basic formatting. If you've never drafted correspondence before, this is really useful because the Navy runs on correspondence. Even if it's for non-official stuff like a memorandum for the record or something. At this level, if you draft something and it doesn't look professional, it kind of makes you look like an a-hole. So really, this is important to know to avoid looking like an a-hole. I guess a reframe of that is to look a lot more professional when conducting business. Correspondence mail is huge. And rant. So number 1, use the standard letter format or one of the variations to correspond officially within or outside the DoD. So what is the format? Standard letter format. Let's see. Format of a standard letter talks about all the stuff. So joint letter, multiple address letters, endorsement, directives, memorandum. It also has in here like how to do 2 pages. The person whose title appears in the 2-line is the addressee, which I think is kind of obvious. If I'm writing it to you, you are the addressee. Standard letter can have any number of via addressees, copy to or both. The next chapter will have more info on that. Formatting, I kind of think of this like APA, 1-inch everything. However, if it's letterhead, the typing starts more than an inch from the top because the letterhead is below the top of the page. Directive headers are also, so directives are a little bit different. Specifically directives, the headers are 1 inch and the footers are 1/2 inch. For the font, Times New Roman. I come across templates where Courier New is still used. Use Times New Roman for everything. Honestly, just for basic professionalism, that's super useful because TNR is kind of like the professional standard anywhere in the world now. So, in my opinion, anything you're writing, typing from email to letter to anything should pretty much always be in Times New Roman 12-point font. Sender symbol, have the SSIC if you have the in reply refer to line. The longest line of the sender symbol should end close to the right margin. See, and then what is a sender symbol? A sender symbol has 3 parts. 1, your SSIC. If you don't know what an SSIC is, let me scroll down. That is your SSIC. SSIC is the subject identifier code. Understand what a few of them are because it helps kind of delineate what some instruction may be, especially if you're trying to guess. I know at the HM1 level, there really aren't a lot of questions. It's like, hey, what is this instruction? What is that instruction? There's maybe like 5 or 6 of them. So I would focus on a lot of the other stuff. But there's so much other stuff you could use that raw memorization for. but that the SSIC can kind of give you like a cheat code. Like, man, I don't know what instruction's the right one, but I know it's a 5000 series instruction, and if I eliminated 2 questions, boom. So SSIC is a 4 to 5 digit number that represents the subject. They categorize information by subject and required on all Navy and Marine Corps messages. To find the SSIC that most closely represents, refer to the SECNAV M5210.2. This 5210.2 is not on your bib, but the 5210.2 is basically the SSIC manual. I looked it up a little bit earlier today, so they're just saying read the manual. The manual's not in the bib, so it may still be important to know like what that is, just to understand it's the bib, or it's the SSIC codes. That is all raw memorization, so have fun on that one. Originator code is the office symbol or whole number of a ship. Each commander activity will determine the markup of the originator code. So it says originator code without serial numbers. Start it immediately below the SSIC, and then you have your 2 options, code 13 or the N00J. And then serial numbers. So if they have serial numbers, all classified correspondence needs to have your serial number. Starts at 1. So think of like your nav admins. I mean, serial means in order, and that's calendar year. So from 1 to however many, calendar year is number 1. Classified markings. This was actually a new one for me. I don't remember ever studying this part before, but they're kind of obvious acronyms. So FOUO stands for official use only. C stands for confidential. S for secret. TS for top secret. And then next, unused serial number for the current calendar year. So 2 examples. So you see serial code, and then 13/271. So kind of think of your nav admins. That's how those usually are: year and what number it is. Date. So use the abbreviated date format, which actually let's go to that. I know it's not in this one, but I vaguely remember seeing dates before. So let's see. We are on 7.2. We didn't make it very far. So let's scroll up to where it references page 211. Let's see. Let's pull that up. 211, abbreviated format. 1 or 2 digit day, the 3-letter abbreviation for the month, and the 2-digit abbreviated year. So, boom. So just day, month, year. The one thing to note that there should not be a 0 in front of a single date. So instead of 05 May, it's just 5 May. All right, let's go back down to this chapter. It's important to know how to do dates. I've seen a lot of memos and stuff where it's not written correctly. So just make sure that you don't have the 0. I guess it was also here too. There are a couple exceptions to using identification symbols, such as letters to people of Congress or heads of government agencies, letters of praise, and condolence. Let's see. Numbers assigned by word processing centers and initials of writers are unauthorized as identification symbols. However, they can be included on file copies so they can tell who drafted it. I think this classified correspondence sentence is kind of obvious. You need to be properly trained to hold classified material. Let's see. Official use only. It applies to info that's not classified but may be withheld from the public under the Freedom of Information Act. And then that can be marked on it. Here's where we go into the different parts. So the from line. Every center letter must have a from line, except a letter that will be used in a window envelope. So I think of that as kind of duh. From, who's it coming from? Let's see, and then it talks about where you can get that information. The SNDL, the Active Marine link, and the DOD manual. Talks about converting that SNDL address to a from line address. So you got the mailing address, turn it into from. So just commanding officer, comma, naval station, comma, Norfolk, or commanding officer / USS is at Chunghoon, DDG 93. This thing is actually really handy. The correspondence manual I have saved on my personal computer, or not my personal computer, I guess my work computer. Yeah, I'm not that motivated to have it on my personal computer. It's just important to kind of look at because a lot of this stuff is easy to forget. Let's see, so that's your from line. Format. This is important. How many spaces? Type from at the left margin on the second line below the date line. A good way to remember that is between the different parts of the letter, so from, to, subject, all of that, there's always at least one blank space. I think everywhere except for the signature at the bottom, because it's to give room for a signature. Everything is pretty much spaced off in sections as with one space. And for the from line, it is 2 spaces after the colon. And if it's more than one line, second line just stays a line. Basically, everything in the top part of the letter should always be aligned. If you click the function at the top of a word, you can create like that little guideline. That is like the quickest way to verify that, boom, everything is lined up perfectly. I do recommend just drafting one of these using the guidelines in here. It's kind of fun just to play with, and then you'll have a good template on your computer. Let's see. So you're from. Let's see. So from 2 spaces. Easy way to remember that. The least amount of spaces is the first one. So, and if your CO has more than one title, use the title that corresponds with the content of the letter. 2 line. Give the 2. Don't add the word code before an office code that starts with a letter. So the word code only goes before numbers, not letters. Let's see. Avoid using a name with your 2 line. So you always want to send it to the their official title. So instead of commanding officer, captain, whatever, you would just say commanding officer, comma, name of command. Because things change, people get relieved, and it makes sure it stays in the hopper. Let's see. So 2 is left margin, line. Oh, actually, from and to are in one section. So belay my earlier. Your from and to go together. So for from and to, no space, but it is 6 spaces after the 2. So from is 2, 2 is 6. So if there's any Stitch fans out there, 6, 2, 6. So 6 spaces, 2 format. Via line, that's all the other people that get the info. The format is the same as the from line and the to line. 5 spaces, which again, if you look right here, so to has 2 letters, via has 3. To gets 6 lines, via gets 5. 1 less. So one of those letters turns into a space. And the obvious reason for that is it keeps these aligned. So obviously if there's not a letter there, it should be filled with a space. So you got 2, 6, 5, 265. I don't think it's some cool way to remember that. All your vias go together. And that's it. Subject line. Big thing about the subject line. Everything is capitalized. Don't use acronyms, spell it out. Everything is capitalized. And if it's multiple lines, keep them lined up to the left. And then it says if the subject appears elsewhere in the text, just use title case. When replying to a letter, repeat the subject. And then subject has 3 spaces. So let's see if that follows the format. So we got 2, we got 6, we got 5, and then we got 3. Which is weird because subject is 4 letters, via is 3. It's only 1 more letter, but it gets 2 spaces. So it's not a perfect system. So just try to remember. What I do is I flashcard all this stuff and just jot it out before a test because it's easy to kind of remember within 2 seconds. I don't have an acronym or anything built with this one. So let's see. We had 2. We had 2. We had 6. We had 5. Subject is 3. So again, 2, 6, 5, 3, 2653, 2653, 2653. I can't think of anything that would be 2653, but just remember 2653. And the numbers and the spaces are different because, again, it's trying to align everything. Let's see. Reference line. This is where you would have what is in the like reference BMed instruction or reference SECNAV M5216.5. Use only references that bear directly on the subject line. Many letters don't need a reference, while some others do. And not at all references a document that some addresses don't need. Avoid them. But if you have to use it, there's a way to reference it. Yeah, request provide requested data. See, there's copy 2. Copy 2 is the one where the command name is its own line. And then for copy 2, don't give a reference. Or actually, it says don't give references to via or copy 2. So if who you're going to give your references to, from 2. Not via, not copy 2. Let's see. Reference, second line below the subject. Let's see. 4 spaces. So reference is 4. Reference. There you go. Reference. 4 spaces. Got to find a way to make studying fun. I'm not going to lie to you guys. The correspondence manual is super boring, but it's important because you don't want to look like an a-hole when you're conducting your stuff. Citing various types of references. Naval correspondence requires the SDNL originator short title. So, boom. Type of correspondence, letter, SSIC. Code by itself or your serial number. And the date, which I think is all the stuff you would need in a reference. Business letter requires name, the term letter, and the date. Email requires the short title, the term email, type of correspondence, SSIC, originator code. So SNDL is one that I'm kind of fuzzy on exactly what it means, but what I'm gleaning is it's basically like the first part of the instruction. So the letters, like the SECNAV, would be the SNDL for the correspondence manual. Let's see. Let's see. So when referencing general message, include the parentheses in the general message. All Navy, all NAV, Naval Administrative is a NAV admin. All Marine Corps, all MAR, and number year. Let's see, enclosure, endorsement, site references. Telephone conversation requires use PhoneCon or MTG. Navy instruction, again, it's what all of the instructions on the bib look like. A notice, however, is the SDNL short title, note, and SSIC, serial number, date, and cancellation date. So look, OpNav note. So if it was about this, it would be a SECNAV note, 5216, serial, and then all the other stuff. And then when it's canceled in parentheses. Let's see. There's the DoD publication stuff. Form. So issuer, form number, issuer provision date, which, as you've noticed in a lot of the instructions of form numbers, pretty much mimic the SSIC. Not always, but if you're trying to guess, just go with what you think the SSIC might be. Remember your slash and call it a day. Let's see, here's how to like reference the CFR and all that. I learned something new, that this weird little Superman S squiggly thing is called a section symbol. Let's see, mine are optional. Enclosure line. So enclosures are basically like added stuff that is important to have. So like, let's say I'm writing meeting minutes. The enclosure would be like the roster of who showed up. So like enclosure 1, meeting roster. So list enclosures in the order they appear in the text. Enclosure 1, enclosure 2, enclosure 3, enclosure 4. Format enclosure, period, left margin, 3 spaces. Let's see. So you use a number in parentheses before the description of every enclosure, even if you only have one. 1 space follows the closing parenthesis. If the entry is longer than 1 line, start the second line under the first word after the heading. That's kind of confusing. I don't really understand because I know that these are offset a little bit. Let's see. Here's your copy 2. Variations. A lot of this stuff is kind of obvious. So if you have to send your enclosure separately, type the term sep cover. See, all text is left justified. Make content clear by using plain English. Start all continuity lines at the left margin, so everything is kind of lined up. Limit subparagraphs, so don't do it unless you can. If you're citing, write the numbers and letters without periods and spaces. Let's see, be brief but informative in your paragraph headings. Here's an important one to know. If you have a Mick something, that's one of the bosses, the C is always lowercase. So here, McNally, M lowercase c, Nally, everything else is capitalized. Signature line. Bidirection is if the person can sign official correspondence, but not by their title. When it affects pay and allowances, then you put who the bidirection is for. So in this example, is bidirection of the CO. Let's see. I don't think I said how many spaces it is. Let's see, where is it? 4th line below the text. So that's a complicated way of saying there should be 3 spaces between the last line and the name because the name is on the 4th line. So 3 space gap. Name. So acting, deputy acting. If you're taking HM1, you've been in long enough to know what acting means. Bidirection. XO, bidirection of the CO. Copy 2, basically the fancy military version of a CC. Identify addresses by the SNDL short title and or the SNDL numbers shown. Copy 2 are normally lifted a single column at the left margin and space below the copy 2. Page numbering, I've seen that one before. Page numbers are 1/2 inch from the bottom edge, starting with number 2. So obviously you don't do page numbers on a single page document because it's page 1 of 1, and that would just be dumb. So numbers are only on multi-page documents. This talks about how to tab, but there's examples. See, this is what's important to have as a desk reference, because once you know what you're looking for, everything should look the same. And I might do another video where I actually make something in the correspondence manual, because, man, one thing that if you haven't learned this trick already, paragraph mode, have it always on Word. Like I use it for school and everything else, especially because APA 7th edition got rid of 2 spaces after a period. That was hard for me, and the paragraph mode helps me kind of look, because see, there's your 2 lines, there's your 6, there's your 5, there's your, I don't remember, I'm going to write all these down because I haven't put them in my short term yet. There's your 4, space, you can see how everything's left aligned. These are your 2 spaces after your 1, space, space, figure, space, 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 name assigner by direction, copy 2. Here's another example. And boom. This gives you an example of like how stuff would go. Page 1, brief sheet, original letter, courtesy copy, addressees, envelope or mailing level. Let's see. How to tab it out. Tab 1, signature. Tab 2, enclosure. Tab 3, background. Material. Think about that in order of precedence. What's the most important? 1, sign. This is where I need to assign it. 2, enclosures. Hey, take a look at the enclosures. 3, background material. I think if this is an eval package, hey man, sign my eval. Here's my important supporting docs. Then here's all the LOAs I got for random stuff that no one really cares about, but I put in my package anyways. So think about the precedence. Signature, enclosure, background material. And that is it for Chapter 7. So again, remember, Chapter 7 is just basic formatting, basic correspondence. It's really like the meat and potatoes of the entire correspondence manual. Formatting, like if you think going to school, formatting is like the most important thing, man. You can have a letter written beautifully, but if your format sucks, you're not going to look professional. So focus on what it looks like. I might do a video after I've read through all the instructions where I actually make something in the manual, because that helps me, and I've done that many times. But you should always have like a perfect template of what a memo or a correspondence letter should look like. All right, guys, have a good one. I'll probably post Chapter 8 tomorrow.